With the weather warming up, I thought I'd share a little bit of information on air conditioner hoses and repair. And we have some fittings and hoses setting here along with a bead lock crimper. There's other connection methods besides bead lock, but my feeling on those is that anything you save on a cheaper connection system, you're going to spend more on the fittings. And these beadlock crimpers, you can purchase them in the summer for a little over $100. I would buy the one that can do barrier hose and reduced barrier hose, just so you have more options in case you need to do either one. But if you know for sure that you'll never do reduced barrier hoses, you can get an even cheaper crimper than this hydraulic one. You can get one that you just screw down with a bolt to crimp the fitting, and those can be had for around $70. And if you watch eBay and Amazon for returns or used ones, you can get them for even less. I picked this one up for around $50. And then the thing that you need to know on these, on the middle fittings, there's 3 common sizes. You can take a set of calipers, and this one measures just under 3/8 of an inch. And the way this tubing is sized is in 16ths. So if we take 3/8 tubing measurement and convert that to 16ths, we get 6/16. So this is a number 6 tube, which corresponds to this number 6 fitting. This fitting happens to be a braze-on one because I'm wanting to reuse this end. This is on a John Deere tractor, and I need to go ahead and reuse this connector. This is a liquid line and number 6, so it'll go with a number 6 hose. And the common sizes are 6, 8, and 10. Number 6 is typically your liquid hose. Number 8 is the vapor hose between the compressor and condenser. And number 8 is your suction hose, bringing the refrigerant back to your compressor. The way you use a beadlock crimper, you take your appropriate sized hose and fitting, and then you'll slide that on, and in this fitting there's a hole to make sure you have the end of your hose clear to the end of your fitting. And with this braze-on fitting, before I will crimp it, I'll go ahead and do my brazing so I don't overheat the hose. And then when I'm ready to crimp, I need to make sure that I have the correct fitting or die in the crimper. And here's an example of the 2 different sizes. This is a number 6 reduced barrier hose, the gray one, and this purple one is a number 6 standard, or in this case that also happens to be the same size as a number 8 reduced barrier. When you get your hose in fitting in the crimp die, you want to make sure it's approximately in the center. You'll have the same distance on this side of the die as this side of the die. Then you can go ahead and crimp your fitting down, and you're going to go down all the way until you can see the dies. You want to make sure they're touching inside of the crimper. And you're going to go down all the way and make sure it's nice and tight and that those dies have touched. And you can actually double check those with a caliper when you're finished. But generally, if your dies have been pushed in all the way, you'll be fine. There's a couple of finished lines after I've brazed and crimped them. This one still needs this last fitting here crimped, but other than that, it's ready to go. It's not the prettiest solution to a bad line, but it's not too bad. And there are other options rather than these braze-on fittings. They have a compression one that you can tighten down with a wrench, and there'd be a little compression sleeve on there that'd crimp tight to your original tube. And that would be something you might want to look at, if you didn't like the look of a brazed on fitting, or you were doing aluminum, where aluminum would be a little harder to solder or weld. And then welding would also be an option for a fitting like this. You might be able to TIG weld it or something like that. And the most common reason you might want to do something like that would actually be if you wanted to change out your factory compressor to something more modern and keep your factory line sets like a classic car or pickup. In this case, I want to keep my original compressor connections because the upgraded version of this compressor would still use these connections. So that's why I went this route. And the other reason I wanted to make some custom lines for this tractor is I wanted, the factory hoses were a little short. I wanted ones a little longer to help with cleaning out this front condenser and some other maintenance items. Before I charged the system with Freon, I ran in compressed air and tested these fittings with a soapy water solution to check for bubbles to make sure my brazes were leak proof. And you can use compressed air to check your AC system as long as you're going to go ahead and replace the receiver dryer and flush your line sets. This was a compressor swap or rebuild, so I was changing out the receiver dryer anyway, and all the lines were flushed and new compressor oil was added before I ever ran the system. If you were leaving the receiver dryer or the oil in the system, then you'd want to use something like compressed nitrogen that was dry so you didn't contaminate the system.